Back to Washington and the fallout from this Chinese spy balloon. The president's State of the Union address happens tonight. I don't know how the president, Allison, avoids condemning China in some way, shape, or form. With Joe Biden, it always seems to come back to China. Let's welcome back in attorney and Republican strategist Erin Elmore and former Trump campaign aide and Newsmax contributor Rick Gates. Erin, great to have you on this morning. Rick, good to see you again. There's this narrative out there right now that these balloons were apparently flying over the U.S. when Donald Trump was president. Take a listen.
How is it possible that this administration discovered at least 3 previous balloons that flew over the U.S. under the previous administration, but Trump officials didn't know it was happening?
Yeah, so look, I think that at least 3 times, as you just mentioned, during the president's prior administration.
Erin, everybody's denying this, including the former president, the Secretary of State. Rick Grinnell is denying this. Mark Esper, former Secretary of Defense, is denying this. No one, even John Bolton, no one has come out and said, yes, there were balloons flying over the U.S. when Donald Trump was president. Is the administration lying?
Well, we certainly have no proof of this. And what they're trying to do is say, well, Donald Trump did it. The media hated President Trump. If they even had one inkling that this was happening, this would have been front page news. Every Democrat in Washington would have been talking about it. Mike Pompeo denies it. Bolton has a lot of questions about it. And Bolton is no fan of the president. Why are we just finding out about this now? Because it happened to Biden, and he's trying to run cover for his terrible performance on this matter. They knew about this balloon since January 28th and did absolutely nothing. We look weak on the international stage. We were being absolutely laughed at. This Chinese Communist Party balloon was over and traversing our country, and we did absolutely nothing. And people at our home saying, hey, what is going on in our nation? We are supposed to be the strongest, most powerful country in the world. We look absolutely weak. People are terrified, and they say, Biden, we expect better of you. And that's why tonight, a lot of expectations about what he's going to say.
Yeah, Rick, it just seems that this administration always seems to point the blame when it comes to any sort of crisis we have.
Somehow the wind caught this thing and flew it over the U.S., conveniently over 5 U.S. military installations.
Right. Why are they doing this over the United States of America? This is our territory. And now they're saying to us, we will retaliate. What does it show you that they think of us as a nation? They don't think we're powerful. And this raises questions about Joe Biden and his son's relationship with the Chinese Communist Party. I think this gives us more questions than answers, and certainly it is highly suspicious. But tonight in the State of the Union, I don't think that Joe Biden is going to really bring this up. Perhaps, hey, we shot it down, like it's some sort of victory. But the bigger picture is, according to the National Review, 62% of Americans think Joe Biden has accomplished very little. His approval rating is only 42.5%, and 4 out of 10 Americans feel that they are worse off under Biden's tenure. How is he going to sort of make that make sense for the American people? We are going to the gas station and seeing staggering gas prices. When we go to the grocery store, everything costs so much more. We saw the baby formula shortage. So when the American people are watching tonight, scratching their heads, saying that Joe Biden has done so great when that's what he's going to be saying about himself, it doesn't jive with what we see at home. And that's the biggest problem. And that's why these poll numbers are so troubling for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I wonder how many fact checkers will be reporting, because
using that balloon to deliver a pathogen, another virus that we know nothing about yet. There are so many things that could be done that we don't know, and importantly, our intelligence community didn't know. And I think that's the real failure here. Biden absolutely will couch this as a victory. We identified it. We're aware of it. We're being strong against the Chinese. And that's the projection that he will take tonight, because he has to, because that's the only way that he's going to try to counter the overall weakness. And just as Erin laid out those poll numbers, I mean, it's incredible to see that the American people are not buying in to the White House's arguments on a lot of these things, not just with the Chinese balloon, but with classified documents, inflation. Yeah. The list goes on and on.
They are just laughing at us. Xi Jinping and the Chinese are laughing at the way weak Joe Biden handled this.
So basically, Xi Jinping is saying, thanks for doing us a solid, Joe Biden. You let our airship go all over the United States, over military bases. You did us a real favor here.
Yeah, good points. All right, we'll pick this back up top of the hour. Erin Elmore, Rick Gates, thank you. Alex, over.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep the conversation going, talking about the State of the Union happening tonight in Washington. Let's welcome back in attorney and Republican strategist Erin Elmore and Newsmax contributor Rick Gates.
Erin, and climate change, too. I'm assuming he's probably going to be talking about that. But, you know, if you've been following the news, the president says he's optimistic, right? Those job numbers came out last week. But, you know, do people believe him, Erin? Because we've talked about this. Rent is up. Electric bills are up. Gas is going up. In June, 426,000 people were working 2 full-time jobs because they have to, not because they want to, because they can't afford to put food on their table. So do you think people, after watching this speech or listening to it, they'll believe him?
Well, they don't believe him thus far, and that's why the polls and the data are telling you a completely different story. 62% of Americans think Biden's accomplished very little. His approval rating sits at 42.5%, and only 4 in 10 Americans feel that they are better off under his tenure. So things are going really poorly for Joe Biden. And if you look at crime, for example, every major city is experiencing staggering crime rates. 27 out of 30 of the cities with the highest murder rates are run by Democrats. What does that tell you? We are in a major problem when we're dealing with Democrats. They want to defund the police. They want this open border. Every town is now a border town because we have fentanyl pouring through our border. People can't afford eggs and groceries and gas. So when Joe Biden goes on television tonight and tells us that he's doing a great job and bangs his fist and screams at us, the American people are going to say no, and they're going to be scratching their heads because they can't make ends meet on a day-to-day basis over the kitchen table issues.
Rick, you expecting any bipartisan applause lines tonight?
Very few. I think maybe on some work that the Congress did in terms of curbing China, China's strategic partnership.
That's China and what we just saw with this balloon?
I mean, it would be done in a way of celebrating and saying, hey, we shot it down. Meanwhile, they knew about this balloon since January 28th. Another element of the China story that we haven't heard a lot about in the mainstream media is that Biden Penn Center. Why was $54 million sent to the Biden Penn Center from the Chinese Communist Party and its affiliate? No one's really touching on that. And these documents that we know that Biden had in several locations, that has been totally put in the dark because of this balloon. The Penn Biden Center didn't open until a year after Biden left office as vice president. Where were those documents for that year? But none of that is being discussed now because we have this spy balloon and we have the State of the Union coming up tonight. Joe Biden and his son had major problems with the Chinese Communist Party. And if you read Michael Pillsbury's book called The 100-Year Marathon, China is at a war with us right now. By 2049, they want to take us over as a world power. And they are on their way to doing this not with guns and bombs. It's the Confucius centers in our schools. It's TikTok. It's stealing our technology. It's throwing balloons over our 5 military bases here in the United States. We have a major problem, and our president is unwilling to admit it.
Yeah, although I disagree with the timeline. I think China wants to do this a lot sooner than 2049. TikTok, think about the balloon was great because everyone could look up and see this thing and follow it. Once we found out about it Friday, you know, I followed it throughout the day, and Saturday it was finally shot down. TikTok, you know, that gives the Chinese government, the CCP, access to over 100 million Americans who have TikTok on their TikTok on their cell phones right now. Okay, I want to just talk about this narrative that the administration is pushing out, that hey, this balloon thing is not a big deal. It happened when Donald Trump was president. Here's KJP on that yesterday.
Yeah, so look, I think that, and we have talked about this before, about how when the PRC government surveillance balloons transited the continental U.S. briefly at least 3 times, as you just mentioned, during the president's prior administration.
Traveling. Everyone was trying to say transited yesterday, like we have to prove we're smart. The balloon traveled west to east across the United States. It didn't transited across anything, KJP. What are you talking? Everyone was saying that yesterday. CNN was saying this on Sunday, and this is what KJP was talking about. Basically, apparently there were spy balloons when Donald Trump was in office, and we only learned about it when Joe Biden took office. This, according to an anonymous administration official. We don't know who this person was. The source is anonymous. The official did not say how or when those incidents were discovered. Rick, how dangerous is this? Because to me, that's Russia, Russia, Russia all over again. Yeah. That's regime media, CNN, parroting a message that the administration wants to get out that, hey, it's not just us, it's Donald Trump too, but we're going to keep the source totally anonymous.
It's extremely dangerous. And the more that the administration does this, the more that they're hiding from the American public.
By the way, senior administration official that worked with President Trump has denied that this ever happened over the last several days.